Welcome to another episode of Monster Monday from the Ready to Die channel. This series explores the design of a creature I have built for Pathfinder Second Edition. The stat block for this creature can be found over on the Monster Monday blog, as well as the Twitter and Discord, all of which are linked below. The ideas and concepts for the original monsters that I make come from a variety of sources. Sometimes I'm exploring a niche that I feel is lacking, sometimes I get inspired by something I see or encounter, and sometimes I just happen on a concept or theme that I want to try out. But other times, it is just a joke that makes me giggle, like this week's horseless headsman, depicted by the wonderful work of Daniel Larios. While this creature was solely inspired by an inversion of the headless horseman, I wanted to approach the concept somewhat seriously. As such, this creature's lore is as an undead often made to serve as an intelligent assistant to a necromancer, typically one of the more wizardly variety. Some headsmen even serve as a sort of unliving spellbook for their masters, collecting heads of colleagues and rivals to increase the knowledge of the one who made them. However, headsmen must be strictly controlled, because they will readily turn on their creator and add their head to the collective. Headsmen free of anybody controlling them often seek to continue to gather new heads, and may even secretly serve as patrons for other wizards, letting them learn and develop new spells and the like, before also collecting their domes. When it comes to the actual design of this deathly decapitator, I landed on level 9 largely by happenstance. I don't always have an idea for what level to build a creature to, or a specific reason for it, which usually leaves it to whatever I feel like, or wherever I have a gap in creatures I've already built. Level 9 does, as one of my test subjects suggested given its magic usage, kind of make this a lower level lich, which I'm happy with. I think that it works nicely for it. Being a body composed of heads, it's obviously an undead creature, which I think I've shown incredible restraint by not making more of. With the headsman being based off of wizards and learned necromancers, it has a high, bordering on extreme intelligence, which deviates from many monsters I've built. It follows this up with a high charisma, which is mostly due to my old instincts regarding undead in First Edition, where they use their charisma to determine their health. Undeath has made the headsman a physical threat with a moderate strength and dexterity, while its wisdom uses a similar value, with his mental stat based on its resiliency from a multitude of heads. Now this is the most skills I've had on a creature for a while, with a wide range of bonuses. Its magic skills stand out here with a high bonus, whilst its athletics and deception are both on the lower end of bonuses here. The first thing to discuss as we move into the headsman's defenses is its all-around vision, a universal ability that makes it immune to flanking due to the multiple heads it has facing in a multitude of directions. It matches this with a high armor class, making it a tough target to assail, but while difficult to land a blow on, it only has low hit points. This fits the spellcaster roadmap I generally followed when building the headsman, especially as my concept of it grew more clear. Following that idea, it uses a high will save bonus, though I was somewhat tempted to give it a swarm mine type ability, but I hesitated with the amount of other immunities it already had. Its reflex and fortitude are both at a low bonus, and it is armed with the usual host of undead defenses. But it has two extra additions. Due to it being mostly composed of heads, each of which can serve as the so-called main head, it doesn't have any particular vulnerability that can be exploited by critical hits or precision damage, and as such, it has immunity to those. On the other hand, that's a lot of skulls to cave in, which means it has a weakness to bludgeoning damage, this being a good example of push and pull in the creature's design. The headsman is not intended to serve as a brawler, using only a moderate attack bonus for both its jaws and its headlob. It's only two forms of attack. The former deals moderate damage and comes with improved grab, letting it sink its teeth, and sometimes multiple sets at that, into its victims. Alternatively, it can detach one of its heads and throw it for an attack that deals low damage. This has improved grab, but it functions more like the Bloodseeker attaching itself to a creature, merely being a head that can continue to gnaw at a creature, as seen with the ability that shares its name with this strike. Now the headsman isn't much of a pugilist, but that is because I actually built it as a caster. Its spells have a high save DC and a high spell attack bonus, and I'll be honest, when it came to picking spells, I mainly just selected options that felt highly appropriate for a wizard. Except for Blood Feast. That just seemed like too great an option to pass up on for a creature made of heads, and the temporary hit points are very nice for the same type of creature. I've mentioned Headlob, which lets a detached head continue to chew at a victim while also serving as an origin point for spells, but the headsman does have another passive ability. Pooled Knowledge is an effect that mostly details how this creature functions with its multitude of heads. This is also how the headsman gains both spells and languages, but overall it's not a particularly exciting ability, it's mostly just housekeeping. I was suggested to put the line in about critical hits and precision damage here, just so that the GMs can explain it when it happens in game. A headsman can expand on this pooled knowledge with Collect Head. This gives the headsman some healing capabilities, but it needs a downed creature first. Functionally, this is pretty much a match to the Ghoul's Consume Flesh ability, but it does have the added benefit of giving the headsman more spells, just ones that it can't use right off the bat, because it does have to prepare them. With the headsman having a focus on being a caster, it doesn't need a ton of other actions or abilities. And for the abilities it does have, it's best to keep them as a single action, as seen with Maul. I did this particular effect because this was an idea I wanted it to have from the very conceptualization of this creature. This lets the other heads join in on savaging a grabbed creature with a high DC save while dealing high strike damage, since it only targets a single creature. Aside from this damage, it also allows the headsman to maintain its grab, which is important for it since it needs to spend its other actions casting spells. Originally, I only designed the headsman with a single reaction, in the form of Chorus of Jeers. This is largely just a fun reaction with the heads all joining in to mock and belittle the abject failure of a character. This comes with a high DC will save, but has a modifiable effect depending on what sort of insults and taunts the headsman hurls at its victims. Whether it be confused to possibly turn a warrior against his friends, stupefied to potentially foul up a rival caster, or just frightened to make an enemy more vulnerable. However, during the Monster Mash, some viewers and test subjects suggested another reaction, a counterspell type of reaction, which led to the creation of Counter Skull. This functions like the counterspell reaction, but the headsman doesn't have to spend a spell slot to do so. It is instead limited in its range, which might make casters take advantage of options such as Reach Spell, or force them to look for longer range spells. But on a critical success, the headsman gains the spell to cast for a round. I'm a little worried that I went too far with this ability, but my test subjects and some of the viewers that caught the stream really liked it, so I'm keeping it in for now. Well, it is about time to head out, but before I go, with Skull's Superfluous, this superb spellcaster serves sinister superiors while seeking a split from servitude. Despite a silly starting concept as the horseless headsman, I had a lot of fun with this creature. It can be a servant of a necromancer, the perpetrator behind a series of wizard murders that have left their victims headless, or have its own agenda to accrue power and magic. If you want to get really silly, maybe let it put its heads together with some Doulahands, some protectors for this caster. But let me know what you think of this creature and what others you would like to see in a comment. If you want to see other monsters I've done, or even the stat blocks and other versions of this monster, check out the Monster Monday blog or Twitter, linked below. Thanks for watching, and have a monstrous Monday.